We're just arriving at Mitad del Mundo. That's the equator. Hello. We met again in Quito. Yes. So now we're at Mitad del Mundo. That's middle of the world. Middle of the world. It's 1st of March here in Ecuador. And we're going to go explore the equator and find out all those experiments that I've been talking about. Just last week, I hosted some people from Hospitality Club. The girl was from England, the guy was from Germany, and then the girl's boyfriend was from Mongolia. And so I hosted the three of them, and they told me about this place called Mitad del Mundo. And Freddie explained that there's this line they got that's in the middle of the equator. You can step on one side, it's the northern hemisphere, the other side's the southern hemisphere, and they got all these experiments that you can do. They got this one sink, you fill it up with water, and you let it drain out, and the water's going to go straight down over the equator, but when you're on the northern hemisphere, it swirls one way. When you're on the southern hemisphere, it swirls the other way. And it should be really exciting. I was also thinking about getting an egg and seeing if it stands up on its side. We'll see what happens. Okay?
Okay, it's
Here
good experience.
In Mitad del Mundo, Ecuador. This is exactly 0-0.
Okay, Tan. Yes.
I found Ecuador on my flag shirt. Surprisingly, when I was in Santo Domingo, Ecuador, I was at the bus station and there was this guy, he chopped up this coconuts and he was able to get off the whole shell with only the meat remaining and there's still water in it. And that was amazing. I was always hoping I could do that with the coconuts I bought in Las Vegas from Thailand, but I never was able to. But the skin is about that thick, so it doesn't rupture, so this is like a perfect coconut. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
That was a mistake of the French Geodesic Mission, okay? But this line crossed up to that mountain. Its name is Catequilla, which is the most important place in this work, because 9 years ago, thanks to the GPS, we discovered on top of the mountain that archaeological site, which is a pre-Incas monument. It's before the Incas. That was built more than 1,000 years ago. It's a stone wall, 70 meters of diameter, and it's the real and unique monument of the middle of the world that we Ecuadorians have, because the place is exactly the correct equator. It's just 0 degrees, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. Our Indian people reached the perfection more than 1,000 years ago thanks to the astronomical observation. They follow the sunrises and sunsets during the most important dates in the year, solstices and the equinoxes dates in that perspective. This is an astronomical model, geocentric model. Here we have June and December, the solstices, March and September, the equinoxes, the north and south line, the parallel lines, the ecliptic axis, the tropics, Capricorn at the south and Cancer at the north, and all those angles of 23 degrees and a half each. 23 degrees and a half is the tilt of the Earth in relation to the Sun, right? So the textiles means the same. Equinoxes and the solstices. Because our textiles were used like instruments for transmitting this knowledge. The main thing here are the mountains, because we are the only point on the equator line where you can find mountains. All this line crosses for forests, South America and Africa and Indonesia islands, all rainforest. But in this country we have a difference, mountains. The Andes are important because the Indian people didn't use optical instrumentation. They needed to observe the movements of the sun on fixed point on the horizon, and that points are the peaks of the mountains.
From where?
From middle of the world, Catequilla. So you can observe the sun rises from eastern Andes and sunsets from western Andes. That's impossible to do in the forest. Because in the forest we have a natural horizon. The trees grow and die all the time. So we have specific points for make astronomy. And the forests create humidity, and humidity clouds. Clouds cover the sky. So for all those conditions, this region became the center for the Indians. Many cultures came to here as the Incas. Incas leaves Cusco from Peru for invaded this sun 500 years ago because for the Incas the main god was Inti, sun. Okay? So for the Incas arrived at this region, which is the place where is no shadow at noon, when equinoxes days, mist arrived at the place of their god. So that's why they came up here. The Incas converted Quito in a very special site for old empire, like their Mecca. But they still here only 40 years because came the Spanish invasion.
So we just arrived here at Mitad del Mundo. What's the story on this, Kenji?
I understand only one thing. And this statue is mistake. So because from that line to there, about 240 meters difference.
240 meters difference?
Yeah.
It's south of the equator.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So we might go up to see the special circle when the sun is at the high noon. There's no shadow at all. Okay, we made it here to this monument with the world on top. Actually, it's sideways. They say this is 000 latitude in Ecuador, but actually it's a mistake. It's 240 meters off south of the equator. So we're actually gonna go try to find the real equator. We might go up there. It costs $2 to get in here and then another $3 to go up on this museum. Now we're over here at Jose Marti's statue in this town in Ecuador. He's a very famous person in South America and Central America and the Caribbean. In Cuba, you'll see his statue, his face all over. He has a lot of good ideas. He's as famous as Che Guevara. So what do you think about the coconut, Kenji?
It's too white,
Yeah?
like your t-shirts.
Oh man.
And it's like color of our heart.
This is your first time you ate coconut?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Coconuts.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go up to see the museum. Alright, we made it up to the tower, where it represents the split between north and southern hemispheres, except obviously we're gonna go to the real one. It's a nice little village they created. It's about 7,500 feet here, not too high. Cusco is about 10,000. For me, it's 7,500 feet, it's no problem. But Kenji might have a little problem.
Yes, a bit.
Yeah. You'll have a worse time in Cusco.
Yes.
Okay. Over here, we got the north, and then obviously we got Jose Marti down there. We're gonna go to the experiment station, 500 meters that way. It's kind of windy up here, so we're pretty much finished this. Now we're gonna go to see a museum.
Okay. Goodbye, mistake.
Bye-bye. Exactly last week ago, 7 days ago, I talked to Freddie about this place when the people stayed at my place, at the house, from Hospitality Club, and he told me that this museum is really interesting, so now I'm gonna check it out. They do egg experiments with all sorts of stuff, but the scientific museum said these are all tricks, but at least it's interesting. Now we went to this other museum, the experiment museum, where they say they do tricks. They have another line over here. So funny. They got two equators around here. Yeah, Kenji?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
This is the real one, right?
Yes.
Calculated by GPS. I should have brought my GPS with me, then I could really know who's saying the truth.
But the most important in this experiment is that you notice how the water was treated down here in the real equator line.
Okay.
Okay? Come closer, please.
Aquí el agua va a caer en forma perpendicular.
If you notice a little
¿Vieron?
twister, it's because
Sí.
nothing is perfect, like this one here. 2 microseconds, this is a mistake. Okay? Now, look what happened with a little distance in the south hemisphere. Come here, please. No magic hand and try to stop the water, okay? Like in the center. It's very important the word is quite like in the center, because in this way you can understand much better how the gravity forces work, in this case in the south hemisphere. And what happened? No? In the south we have the clockwise.
A la derecha. conforme a las manecillas del reloj.
Now, look what happened in the North Hemisphere. Let's go to the Japan. Come closer, please. See what happened in the North? We have the opposite way, counterclockwise. As far as you go, more naturally you can experience these forces, and even as far as you go, more stronger will be these forces. If you try to see this one in the toilet, it's not true, because this one use a mechanism.
What about a bathtub?
The same. If you notice, the moment of the earth produce these forces, no? But in the bathroom is different. No produce the forces.
Oh, really?
Because the movement produces forces.
Just with the sink?
Yeah.
Only? No.
Ahora nosotros vamos a coger
Huh.
la velocidad
Now,
de-
for making the next, ¿qué vas a? Yeah, okay. Now, my friend continues the explanation because I'm going to take my lunch.
Oh.
Okay.
And we weigh 1 kilo less. Line. That's
Germany
why,
girl will be happy.
yeah. And now I'm going to try to prove this with the second test. Equal forces, equal times, equilibrium, and balance. That's why here will be easier than in your country. But in your country you can do it on equinox days, on March 21st and September 23rd, because you are going to have equal times. We are going to see what happens with you. If you are able to balance the egg like this museum gonna give you a certificate about this, about the egg. Okay? Come on. We are going to try to keep the balance of the equatorial line, but the forces are pulling in different directions here. That's why it will be harder. Okay?
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, I think so.
Now Kenji's trying. Really? Oh.
It's running a lot.
Si nosotros nos fijamos cuando miramos el polo norte, vemos que gira en sentido contrario a las manecillas del
So 12 years old.
12 years old, because I told you here in Ecuador when children were 12 years old they were adult people. That's why he was enemy. But the short people anymore to practice with their traditions with humans now. With monkeys, the last thing was made 100 years ago.
Slogan. And in rainforest in the Amazon River, this is how you get your meals every day. Okay? All the way to the cactus. Okay.
You can see over there we have got the pre-Columbian designs. At this moment he's learning that kind of design. Okay, it's the dog, cats, rabbit, and guinea pigs.
¿Y yo qué dije?
I believe girl.
Okay.
This race of the gravity here is less, and we weigh 1 kilo less or 2.2 pounds less. These forces produce the hurricanes, tornadoes, and twisters in both hemispheres. But we have to know that here in the north part of the world there is more land than water. The tornadoes, twisters, and hurricanes are stronger here. In the south part of the world we have more water than land. The tornadoes, twisters, and hurricanes are not so strong here. And here in the middle we don't have, because the centrifugal forces cancel each other out. Okay? Now we are going to comprove this Coriolis theory, the Coriolis effect with the water here. So that is the most, okay? Be closer here. Here we are going to see that the water falls straight down. The water doesn't produce any kind of movements, any kind of rotation ripples here. The water falls straight down.
Yeah.
Be closer here. Are you ready with your video?
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Oh, yes,
1, 2, and 3. Look at here, please. Look at the movement of the lids.
Just go down.
Yes. Pull straight down. Okay, now we are going to try the same in the south and then in the north to compute the difference between those places.
Alright, we saw everything around here. Goodbye mistake. This is a mistake that they put 240 meters south of the equator. The food over here is pretty good. How was your meal? Very good? 50 cents for a corn on the cob.